Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to take a look at this album. It was one which was requested, so yes, I'll be looking at Blondie's debut record today. So I'll just be doing my usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album's tracks in detail. Okay, so as I said, this was Blondie's debut record. The band were formed in I think 1972 when Christine joined an already formed band called the Stilettos, which included Debbie Harry as a vocalist, and they began to see each other romantically. Now in 1974 this band, the Stilettos, split, and Chris and Debbie formed a new band originally called Angel and the Snake. They renamed themselves Blondie after catcalls made towards Debbie Harry. Eventually, after a few lineup changes, they struck gold with drummer Clem Burke and bassist Gary Valentine joining the band, and very much becoming a mainstay on the New York club circuit, playing in the famous CBGB's club. In 1976, they signed with Private Stock Records and recorded this debut album in December. It was produced by Richard Gottenher, who had been in the recording business since the 50s. They had a lot of experience, and he's very much credited to giving this album is very retro, very throwback feeling to it. Very much at odds with their punk image and live sounds off the time. Now upon its original release, this album was not commercially successful. It completely flopped. It completely flopped pretty much everywhere. They would later sign with Chrysalis, due to the failure of this album, buying out their old contract and reissuing it in 1979, after they had achieved some huge commercial success. Now the first glimmer of success did actually occur with one of the album's singles, where apparently the video for their song In the Flesh was played instead of the lead single from the album, Ex Offender. They played that B-side instead, which must have struck a chord again Australia, because that song would go to number 2 on the Australian charts in 1977. Unfortunately though, it would be another 2 years before they would make it in the UK with the lead-off single from the follow-up album Plastic Letters, Denise, and this album would reach a peak of 75 in 1979, pretty much at the height of their success. So we'll try to show you my vinyl copy of it. There's not much really to show. There's just a cover which I do really like. It's a great cover, this one here. I'd say it's probably their second best album cover after Parallel Lines, or maybe even this is the best. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it is a great cover though. It just looks so that's so good on it, so stylish. There's the back of it there, a bit more kind of silly, a bit more light-hearted, but yeah, kind of just shows the band's personality a bit. Got all the track listing at the top. There's no inner sleeve of this one or anything. This one just came in a blank sleeve. This is the Chrysalis reissue. I think the original ones I got that private stock are quite difficult to get nowadays. And there it is, just on Chrysalis. So yeah, that's the vinyl record looked at. Okay, so I'll now go over each of the album songs in detail. So there's 11 tracks in total on this album. So yeah, I'll just score each track out of 10, and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album.
I know you wouldn't go, you'd watch my heart burst then.
So the record kicks off with Ex Offender, which is easily my favourite song on the album. I think this is just a great track. It's got such a great exuberant musical backing on it. It was written originally by the bassist Gary Valentine. However, the lyrics were reworked by Harry to become about a prostitute who is arrested, and then who falls in love with the policeman, because originally it was called Sex Offender. So they had to change the title once they wanted to put it as a single, fearing that song with that title might not quite get the radio airplay. As it was, so this song, as a single, got completely ignored at the time. But I think it is a terrific track. And yeah, I think it is one of the strongest early Blondie songs. So yeah, for me, that one would get a 10 out of 10. up is called Little Girl Lies, which was written solely by Harry, and it's a more kind of, again, you've got a kind of light retro feeling to this one here, like in like sort of like the quite sort of thin like guitar sound on it, and also kind of like also kind of like the hand claps that gives it like a very much like sort of like a early 60s like girl group like sort of feeling to it, and like lyrically like it has that sort of like kind of like chick flick like sort of style to it as well. I mean, it is very light, it's very fluffy compared to like kind of like the punk tag like which they were often like associated with like around this time. But I mean, it's nothing bad, it's just not really a like standout moment like on the album, so it would get a 7 out of 10 for Little Girl Lies.
She said, hands off, this one's sweet.
Next up is called In the Flesh, which is a really good track. This one here, it's one which has really grown on me. Like, I never used to really like rate this song like when it was like say like on like the Greatest Hits like album, but certainly like on this album, like in the contents like of this record, it really comes alive, this track. Again, it kind of continues like that 50s nostalgia sort of thing with like sort of like a doo-wop like feeling to it, like in like sort of like the bells, like and like the backing vocals. I mean, Harry sings the song really well, and it's got great development like throughout in this track here, like with a lot of changes like in like rhythm and tempo. And yeah, it was a big hit for them, like I said, again, like Australia reaching number 2 in 1977, of course becoming like the first country where they would achieve like any like level like of success. And yeah, it is a really good song, so that one I would give a 9 out of 10 to.
I could give you some head and shoulders to lie on.
Next up is called Look Good in Blue, which is another, again, a really, really good song, this one here. This one probably sounds a bit more like up to date, a little bit more like current, like for like the times, like because you've got a sort of a bit more like keyboard work on this one. It kind of sounds a bit more like contemporary. I mean, I really like the lyrics like of the song, and like the structure like as well, like it's really interesting, like where you've got like a killer solo, and like then it kind of completely changes in tempo, like in key. And I mean, yeah, they really do pack a lot into like this song, like considering like it is like only like, was it 2 minutes 56 seconds like running time. So yeah, Look Good in Blue would get an 8 out of 10 from me.
In the sun, it's for everyone in the sun.
Next up is also pretty good. It's called In the Sun, and this one, it kind of starts off like with Debbie Harry sort of shouting like "Surf's Up," and it has that kind of Beach Boys-y sort of surf music like influence like on it, but it is a bit more like of like a heavy beat like to this one here, like a bit more like a bit more strong, a bit more like forthright and forceful. And yeah, like yeah, it really is just like a good like little like new wave like rocker, this one here. Again, it's a kind of like sound and style like what would become really common like in like the next few years, but certainly like in 1976 it was really kind of like groundbreaking. So yeah, In the Sun would get an 8 out of 10 from me.
Don't wear those clothes again, they don't make it in this.
Next one up is called A Sharks in Jet's Clothing, which closes off side one, and this one was written by the keyboard player Jimmy Gestry. And I mean, that kind of like explains like its more sort of synth-based like nature like of this song. Again, Harry sings it well enough, but she kind of seems like she's kind of shouting it like a little bit like more like rather than sort of singing it. I think she would really refine her vocals like over the next couple like of like Blondie albums, like as like their like career like would like go on. But like honestly, like I don't think she's vocally like at her best. But the song is alright. I mean, it's not too memorable, but when it's on, it is quite pleasant and like yeah, quite enjoyable. So yeah, that one I would give a 7 out of 10 to.
With what I know, he never stood a chance.
Okay, and then we flip over the record to the second side, which kicks off with a song called Man Overboard, which I, when I first heard it, again, I really loved this song. It was notably written solely by Harry, so there's no contribution like from any other member like of like the band on it, and I just really like the guitar riff on it. Just sounds really funky, great catchy melody, and like really good multi-layered production. But for me, the reason why I'm giving it a 7 is because this song just runs out of steam, but then they decide to just sort of keep going with it, and like yeah, it really just like loses its like direction like towards the end. Like kind of just like everything just sort of slow down again, like the drumming just like becomes a bit sloppier and that. I just don't really get it. I think it would have been much better like if like they maybe cut it down to maybe like about like say like 2.5 minutes. Like as it is, it goes on for about 3.5 minutes, and I mean like although it isn't particularly long still, they just seem to sort of like get a bit bored like of the song like halfway through it. But when it is actually like when it first comes on, it is really good. So I would give it a 7 out of 10 for Man Overboard.
She's so tough.
up is probably the most popular song on the album, I would say. Like, it's the one that features on a lot of Blondie Greatest Hits collections, and I think it was a single as well. But for me, it's never particularly been a favourite track of mine. It's called Rip Her to Shreds. And I mean, like, lyrically, this one, like, is kind of like how he sort of sings, like, from like a different person's like perspective, like kind of like from like kind of sings it like sort of like about like gossip magazines, like in columns, and sort of like the impacts that they have like on people. And I mean, musically, like, it's kind of like an R&B sort of style, but using more sort of like modern kind of synthesizers and stuff like on it. But yeah, there's just something about the song which I've not really been able like to like connect with, and like yeah, like when it is like on, and like yeah, like when it is on like a Blondie Greatest Hits collection, like it's a song which always tends to be like my least favourite like on it. Like it's one which I sometimes like I'm tempted like, to even skip over, because compared to classics like Sunday Girl and like Heart of Glass and Dreaming, for me this one just doesn't quite stand up with those. So yeah, I would give it a 7 out of 10 there for Rip Her to Shreds. Next up is called Rifle Rage, and this one is, again, it's another really strong, like energetic and like real like infectious song. Yeah, you've got a good vocal hook on it. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking, this track. It's kind of Blondie very much playing to their strengths on this song, very much like doing something like which like they're comfortable with like by this point. But yeah, it's just a solid rocking track. So yeah, while it's nothing new like on the album, it is still pretty pleasant, so I would give that one a 7 out of 10. One after that is called Kung Fu Girls, which is a more kind of straight ahead like punk rock number, again with slightly silly lyrics on it, but it does have all the usual Blondie trademarks on it. I really do like the instrumental breakdown in the middle like of the song. We get a really cool like keyboard part, and yeah, it's just again another solid track there, so that one would get also a 7 out of 10. And then we close the album with probably the most weird and puzzling song on it. It's called The Attack of the Giant Ants. And this one is a kind of weird sort of like apocalyptic style track, like about like ants like taking over the world. I mean, it's got kind of it's the weird sort of disconnect like in like the song. It has a kind of light-hearted element like with like the really bloody catchy like chorus like on it, but then it kind of goes into like this really scary sort of sound collage, and they just don't really seem to know like what to do like with this song. Like, to be honest, I can understand like why someone might really enjoy it, because it is weird, it is different. But for me, yeah, I just don't really rate the song too much. So I can only really give it a 5 out of 10, like, I'm afraid. Okay, so overall, this album would score 75%, which is a pretty solid mark there for a pretty solid debut album. I mean, it is a very simple but highly effective record. It manages to combine sort of like a lot of like 50s and 60s like girl group style like influences, like with like the newly emerging like punk rock, to create something new and fresh like for the times. So much so that it probably came like a couple years like ahead of like the Curve, and Curve, again, like I said earlier, like wasn't a commercial success, but certainly like paved like the template like for like future Blondie albums, like where they would have huge commercial success. I mean, really, yeah, this was the time like 1976, like when like prog rock and disco like were like the main genres. So like it was really no wonder like in like that sort of musical climate that like a band like Blondie like would like absolutely commercially bomb like at like that time. But it is a record which I think still sounds very vibrant today. And there's a certain freshness to the album, and yeah, while it's maybe not quite to the same quality level like as like Parallel Lines or Eat to the Beat, it is a really strong, concise debut album. Kind of like, this is what like we're all about. Like, this is us, like there's like introduction to the world, and I think like as like that, like it does work like very well. So yeah, that has been my review of Blondie's debut album here. So hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.